Hello, and welcome to the 404 Media Podcast, where we bring you unparalleled access to hidden worlds, both online and IRL. 404 Media is a journalist-founded company and needs your support. To subscribe, go to 404media.co. As well as bonus content every single week, subscribers also get access to additional episodes where we respond to their best comments. Gain access to that content at 404media.co. I am your host, Joseph, and with me are 404 Media co-founders Sam Cole.
Hey.
And Jason Kebler.
Hello.
I will say we've uploaded the 1 year subscribers only podcast, so there should have been a trailer in your feed. If you like the sound of that, please subscribe and you'll get the full episode on the main subscribers feed. All right. This story from Sam. The community is in chaos. WordPress.org now requires you to denounce affiliation with WP Engine to log in. I'm going to be real, this is very confusing to me, editing it. I'm very much an outsider looking in, but I understand this is incredibly important to a lot of different people. So before we get to the main story, Sam, I've got 3 definitions here that I'd really like you to spell out. First of all, what is WordPress.org?
I'm tired just thinking about the emails that I'm going to get after this, because every time I define any of these in any way, people email me to say I'm wrong and they contradict each other. So no one really understands what the fuck this is. But so as I understand it, and I've checked this with many people, WordPress.org is part of the WordPress Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization, and it's a open source project. So it creates software that is open source. There's this big community of people who collaborate and develop tools and parts and pieces of the WordPress open source project. That's the .org, which is very important.
Right, and I put it in the wrong. I put it in the wrong order. Yes, I put it in the wrong order. But when you say sort of WordPress software, broadly, what you're referring to is basically the publishing tools and the CMS, which many websites around the web use. Okay, so they're connected to that. And then I guess just the other part that we need to define is, what is WP Engine?
WP Engine is it's an independent company that it hosts WordPress sites. So as a company, you can take from the WordPress community project, the open source project, and make your own, kind of like what they've done, which is like a hosting service. You can kind of build off of it on your own because it's open source. And lots of companies have done this. And you're kind of expected to, like, as part of using the WordPress project and taking part in that, you're expected to kind of give back and contribute back to the open source in some way or another, and kind of uphold the same values. And then I guess we should also define WordPress, the .com, the commercial entity, which is owned by Automatic, which is owned by Matt Mullenweg. It took me a long time to realize Automatic has 2 T's because it's automatic, because it's Matt. Just some foreshadowing for you. And so Automatic funds and contributes to the code base of WordPress, the project. So they're separate things. It, like, in theory,
I feel
sorry.
So
WordPress.com, WordPress.com though is, as Sam said, a for-profit entity, but it's also like a whole like hosted version of WordPress where you can just like go on there, pay them a monthly fee, and spin up a WordPress site. It is sort of like Ghost Pro, which is what we use, where we're using a version of Ghost, but it's all like one package where you can like set up a website on that entity.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
I think most people are more familiar with .com. If you were going to say, I'm going to make a WordPress site, you're probably going to go to WordPress.com and you're immediately going to have all the tools right there. It's very easy out of the box. You're probably not going to get super into like the coding of using the .org stuff, which you could. It's not that hard, but the .com is kind of like if you're just going to take home the full thing without having to fuck with it too much.
But then some people go to WP Engine as well, almost as an alternative way of doing that. So then with all of those definitions in place, and hey, if you didn't understand it, hit that rewind button and just listen to that bit over and over again. Because I don't know, it is very, very crazy confusing, but I think we established it. So before we get into the news, really broadly, before we get into those specifics, what is the conflict happening here between these various parties? Because this has kind of been brewing for a little while, right?
Yeah. So in September, Matt Mullenweg, which I just mentioned, he co-founded WordPress.org. He owns and founded Automatic, which owns .com. He wrote a blog post on the WordPress.org site saying that WordPress Engine, basically accusing WordPress Engine of not contributing enough to open source, and also for confusing people by calling itself WP Engine, like confusing people into thinking that WP Engine was WordPress, like an
official thing.
Yeah, and maybe I've been saying WordPress Engine. That's not what it's called, by the way. See, people are already mad at me. I can feel them. I feel my ears tingling. WP Engine is the name of the company.
Yes,
and he's like, well, it's confusing people.
What does the WP stand for?
Who could say? We don't really know.
I'm just reading it as it's written in the document. I'm trying to be really careful right now.
Well, yeah, and so Matt writes this blog, and he's like, WP Engine confused my mom into thinking that they are part of my company. Which, by the way, why is he talking about WP Engine with his mom? Who knows? That may come to light someday, but. Yeah, so he's saying that they're confusing people and that they need to pay for a trademark license to use that name. He's pissed off. He's accusing their investors of not contributing enough to the open source project, and kind of throwing out all these things. And then basically WordPress, WP Engine, right, does sends him a cease and desist and is basically like, stop trashing us in public, or sends him and Automatic a cease and desist, and then Automatic sends them back a cease and desist saying, you know what I just said, Matt accused them of.
Yes.
And then WP Engine files a lawsuit, which we'll get into, but that's enough.
Yes.
Right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you have these accusations that, hey, you're taking this code base, but you're not contributing enough to it. It's a brand confusion thing as well. And then there's firing back, and then firing back to the firing back, etc. Last week, I think at this point, there was an update to a login page. What exactly was that update, and what was it sort of asking users to do?
Mm-hmm. So the updates this is on the WordPress.org login. It says, so if you want to log into your account for WordPress.org, that gets you into like support forums and to be able to contribute. So contributors to the WordPress.org project need to log in using this. There's now suddenly, as of last week, a checkbox that you have to check before you log in or register a new account that says, I am not affiliated with WP Engine in any way, financially or otherwise. And you have to check that. You have to agree to that before you log in, which is complicated because a lot of people are affiliated with them because they're doing if they're part of the project, they're doing consulting for them, or they have clients who are of theirs. Like WP Engine has they have a lot of stake in this ecosystem, as does Automatic. They're kind of, I don't want to say competitors, but they're kind of doing the same thing. So it's a very tricky thing all of a sudden for community members and contributors to even just access .org, because now they have to they're like, is this legally binding? This is dragging us into this kind of for-profit beef, and we were on the nonprofit side. So it all gets very hostile and complicated and drags a lot more people into it that didn't really expect to be, I think.
Yeah. And so they've basically put up a wall saying if you're affiliated at all with WP Engine, we're not going to let you in effect. And you said, it sounds like that's quite confusing potentially for users, because as you say, well, they might be affiliated, they might not, they just want to log in and continue to do their job or their projects. How did users that you spoke to react to this login box change?
They were freaked out. There's a Slack that is for people who are contributors to the project, and they were asking, Matt's in the Slack, and they're asking Matt all these questions. And then Matt confirmed in the Slack that this box is part of him banning WP Engine from using any of WordPress.org's resources, which is a whole other part of this. People were asking what's the deal with this? Can you explain? And then he's just kind of saying well, it's your choice whether to check it or not. Lots of people lie all the time. And it's man, this is crazy. What are you talking about? It just feels like very petty to them that this is even reached this level. So yeah, the folks I talked to were very upset. And then in the Slack, which is another kind of part of this, people were getting banned for even just questioning it. It seemed like there were a few contributors who had been contributors for a really long time.
You spoke to someone who had been doing it for 10 years, right?
Yeah. A really, this has been part of their life and part of something they've been doing for a really long time. And got kicked out of the Slack. So now he doesn't have access to this community resource that he was using to help keep the project going. And he was a really important part of this, maintaining lots of different parts of the open source. So that's kind of the drama where we left it last week. And of course, much has happened since then. There's a whole lot of drama with a plugin being altered and banned.
Well, give me. I don't even know about the plugin thing. So give me your version of that.
Before you do that, and this has come through, but I just want to stress this is so. Besides being complicated, it's so messy. It is messy drama to the 15th power. People there's a lot of vindictiveness here. There's a lot of people who have been contributing to these projects for a long time, getting kicked out of communities that they were in for a while. There's a lot of Matt Mullenweg posting blog posts, then deleting the blog post, then posting altered versions of the blog post. He's going on other podcasts, and it's super messy. And I know we're being very careful because it just is one, it's complicated. Two, it's messy. There's not a better word for it than this is drama. And it's such a distraction.
And it might be having a real impact. Well, it is having a real impact on people because now they can't get in and they can't, contribute potentially. And very, very distracting
I think the worry is it's going to break because it's the people working for Automatic are there, and also with people contributing in the community. WordPress is running a lot of sites on the internet at this point. I think it's something close to the number that gets thrown around is 40%. I don't know if that's accurate, really, but it's a lot of sites out there that depend on WordPress to function. And if things are kind of imploding, which they seem to be within Automatic and within the larger project and the foundation, that puts a lot of the internet at risk and the way it functions. So just very quickly, the plugin thing happened late last week where .org took over a super popular WP Engine plugin, and just took it over, just took it over and invoked some kind of like guideline, and it feels vindictive, but who knows really. And then also a couple weeks ago, Matt offered people working at Automatic this big alignment offer where if they didn't agree with him and his actions, they could take it's basically a severance agreement where they got paid out, and were told, you're free to go, which a lot of people took. It was like 159 people took that offer. God knows how many stayed because they need healthcare and need a job.
While your boss is doing these various things, you're like, I want to work on WordPress. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I'm here to do a job. I'm here to do my coding job. Not get involved in all this drama. So
I will say that yes, allegedly 478 million websites built on WordPress. That's according to a particular hosting provider who would potentially have at least some insight into that. But so that's
a lot.
And of course, if it continues, maybe there could be a dramatic impact on at least some of those sites, right? You mentioned this lawsuit, and that's going a little bit back in the timeline, I think, but we don't have to do a play-by-play of what it is exactly, but is it just like a more formal sort of manifestation of the beef here? Like, what is the lawsuit?
The lawsuit is from WP Engine against Automatic, and it accuses them of extortion and abuse of power.
Well, we'll leave that there.
Based on everything else we've just said, I will leave it there. I mean, we linked to it in the story, the lawsuit, but basically, WP Engine is accusing Matt and Automatic of, not letting them have the freedom to run their company the way that they want to, even though that's kind of what was the agreed upon. Like, that's the premise of why they built their company on WordPress.
Yes, so. Because there's an open source license, you're supposed to be able to go use it, and you can't, or you shouldn't just add extra terms later when you feel like it, that sort of thing. And I guess it just leads to our last thing, which is sort of what's the latest in that it seems that Mullenweg is now making potential enemies with other high-profile people in this space. There was sort of a blog post and then a response to the blog post. I mean, what's happening there? Is it just more of the same? Or
it's more of the same. I actually have not had time to read way into what's going on, but I don't know. Jason, did you read the DHH blog?
Yeah, the short version of it is there's a beef between Matt Mullenweg and David Heinemeier Hansen, better known as DHH, who is a race car driver / open source developer, better known in this world for his open source development. He created like Ruby on Rails. He created Campfire, which was like an open source version, like a predecessor to Slack, and a couple other pretty big tech like software things, like very successful, highly successful. He runs this software development firm called 37 Signals. And basically like DHH criticized Matt Mullenweg, and then Matt Mullenweg wrote a blog post basically railing against DHH, and that claimed he was not as successful as he should have been because like companies like Slack took his general idea and made them into like gigantic companies. So he was pretty much, to paraphrase, saying like, you're not as successful as me, more or less. And then he edited that post to be like, sorry, I was mad. And that all happened in like the last 24 hours as we're recording this. And
it's not the sort of communications you expect from a senior person or a leader of a a company, and not just a company and an organization, but one with that's very, very important to the internet. And I know it sounds like, oh, we're on one side, we're just talking about drama, that sort of thing. And that is true in some way, because, well, they've done that. They've brought it upon themselves. But there is like significant impact here for people's jobs, for the tech industry, and potentially the web, writ large, depending on what happens now. So I hope people don't listen to this and then just think, oh, well, this is like silly gossip or something. Because no, this could actually be very, very real. And it is very, very real for a lot of people as well.
Yeah, people are really scared for their jobs. I think we've all worked at a unstable workplace. Like, many people work at places where they don't have any control over the whims of the people, the higher ups, the executives, the owners, CEOs, what craziness they get up to. Not saying Matt's doing craziness, but can relate to a workplace where things are unstable and confusing, and people are leaving en masse and taking offers to like shut down whole departments. And it's not fun. And it's honestly very scary for a lot of people, because they need this stable work. And it's just, it seems to be this drive from this one kind of beef that's occurring.
I think without knowing the intense specifics of open source licensing and these specific projects and their histories and all of that, there is like probably space to have some sort of nuanced conversation about like open source contributions and licensing, and who can profit off of open source software and in what ways, and how is that ethical, and naming conventions. Like, should something like WP Engine, like, should it be called WordPress Engine? Is WP Engine okay? Like, are they contributing enough to the project, and in what ways are they contributing to the project? Blah, blah, blah. Like, all of this sort of thing. These are conversations that we've sort of talked about before. And I think that we most talked about them when there was like a social engineering attack on this really important part of open source software. And it's like, in general, open source software, it can be the case where there's like a few people who contribute to a project, and then a bigger company takes and spins that off and makes a lot of money on it. And the people who contributed to that project feel taken advantage of in some way. I'm not saying that's what's happening here. I'm saying like that is a constant topic of conversation. And this is like a very nuanced thing that people are going to need to continue talking about. But like, what is happening here is there is like a central figure, like in this case, Matt Mullenweg has like he's very outspoken, he's very powerful, and rather than having like the nuanced conversation, it's like playing out in court, it's playing out in like on social media, it's playing out in people getting feeling like they have to take a buyout to leave their jobs, people feeling like they're being kicked out of a community that they work on, so on and so forth. And it's like, at the core here, there's a very important thing, but the way that it's playing out feels, frankly, to me, like very immature, very, like I said, messy. And people don't like that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll leave that there. I'm sure we'll have more updates in the future. But we'll be right back. And then when we return, we're going to talk about how Jason used AI to apply for a crap ton of jobs while he was having breakfast, I think. We'll be right back after this.
Somehow, the year is almost over, but it's a good time to get a jumpstart on your New Year's resolution. No need to wait. My resolution starts with this, and it ends with me speaking a new language. It's Babbel. Speak like a whole new you with Babbel, the language learning app that gets you talking. With quick 10-minute lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts, Babbel gets you talking a new language in 3 weeks. And because talking is the key to really knowing a language, Babbel is designed for real conversation. I find that knowing even a little bit of the local language helps a lot on a big trip. That's why I used Babbel ahead of a trip to Italy to show the people there that I was at least making an effort. I've kept practicing since my trip, and now I can't wait to go back. Babbel's speech recognition tech helps improve your pronunciation and accent, just like this.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. Want more proof that Babbel gets you talking? Studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and other leading universities continue to prove that Babbel works. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. This holiday season, give the gift of language with Babbel. Here's a special holiday treat for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/404. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/404, spelled BABBEL.com/404. Rules and restrictions may apply. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I have a deep fear of cleaning out my email inbox. Halloween is a good time to take stock of what scares us, and often our adult fears are related to a lot more than just the things that go bump in the night. So maybe I should try talking to a therapist about my email anxiety. Therapy is a good option for talking about the things that scare us, make us anxious, keep us up at night, and all the other things that can affect our mental health. I've been using BetterHelp for the last month to talk about panic attacks and anxiety, to help me develop new strategies to calm down in a stressful situation, and to get at the root cause of what's causing it. No matter what you're dealing with, therapy can empower you to be the best version of yourself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's a flexible online platform. Scheduling is easy, and you can even message with your therapist in between appointments or if you don't have time for a call. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/404media today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/404media. So my 404 Media colleagues probably remember when I got doxxed, which was a nightmare for everyone involved, mostly me. My name, address, phone number, social security number, and a bunch of other information was leaked online, which led to all these spam calls, harassment, threats, etc. Even if you're not a journalist, a sophisticated network of data brokers is making your personal information available to the highest bidder. I fixed my problem with Delete Me, which is a service that basically looks you up on all these people search websites and data broker websites and formally gets you removed from them. The subscription service removes your personal info from the largest search databases on the web, helping prevent potential ID theft, doxing, and phishing scams. I'm a real Delete Me customer. I've been using it for more than 5 years. Sign up is so easy. You just go to their website and then they send you personalized privacy reports showing you what info they found, where they found it, and how they got it removed. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now with a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/404media. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/404media. That's joindeleteme.com/404media.
All right, and we are back. This is one that Jason wrote. Quote, I applied to 2,843 roles, end quote. The rise of AI-powered job application bots. This is crazy. First of all, walk us through the story you tell at the top of the article. Sort of, where were you, what was happening, and then what were you doing?
Yeah, so I was at a coffee shop working, and I had found this thing called Auto Jobs Applier AI Hawk bot on GitHub, and it does what it says in the name. It automatically applies to jobs for you using AI, and specifically, it does it on LinkedIn. And it's a Python script that plugs into OpenAI more or less, or you can use it with Gemini and a couple other LLMs. And I had seen it going like a little bit viral on Twitter earlier that week. And so basically I wanted to see if it worked. So I installed Python, I like set up the script, and I am in this coffee shop. I've ordered my food.
What food?
I
trying to do
had,
narrative journalism.
it was scrambled eggs. There was a sausage involved.
Huh.
There was a salad. I was in Taiwan, which is
right.
maybe important, and will be the subject of future stories. But anyways,
That was the important part. I don't know why you're saying anyways. That's like crucial context. So you have this food.
I have this food.
Yeah.
To be totally honest, it was the first coffee that I had in a month, which is good. It went well. The coffee went well. Didn't get too jittery from it, so that was a win. But I clicked enter. Like I had a terminal window up, which is really cool. Anytime you're in the terminal, it's very cool, and you're hacking essentially.
It's true.
Yeah,
and then you change the color scheme to be like green
exactly,
and black, and then you're definitely hacking. So what happens when you hit enter?
So I hit enter, and the script starts running, and like all of like lines of text, like start going, and the bot is essentially explaining what it's doing. And so it opens up a Chrome window. It navigates to LinkedIn. I had already logged into LinkedIn, so it had access to my LinkedIn. And it starts searching for jobs. And it starts searching for jobs according to parameters that I had given the bot. Like I'd pre-programmed it into the bot, according to the README file that I had. It wasn't like that complicated to do.
That was probably like a configuration file or something.
It was a configuration file, and basically I in that configuration file, I give my name, my address, my like work history, stuff like that. Like basically a very basic resume of my life. And then I also gave it information about the types of jobs that I wanted. So in this case, I had like software engineering, marketing. I had like communications. I originally had editor and writer in there because that's the types of jobs I had in the past. And it starts searching through LinkedIn for any jobs that like meet this description. And when it finds it, the bot clicks on this button called Easy Apply, which is like you can apply directly on LinkedIn. And
that's a native LinkedIn feature.
It's a native LinkedIn feature where you can just go through the entire application process on LinkedIn. It doesn't send you to a second website. So you're applying on LinkedIn itself. And so then the bot, like in the terminal, says like generating resume, generating cover letter. I can see it reading the job like description more or less. Like it will intake it and show like, hey, this is a job at Brilliant Earth, which is a jewelry company. And it was like a social media job at a jewelry company. So it like read that and it said like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like we have precious gems and we're looking for someone who's passionate about jewelry. And I could see that it was reading that, or like the LLM was like intaking that information. And then it generated a cover letter, it generated a resume, and it uploaded them into LinkedIn. And it also answered a bunch of questions. Like it would input my name and address. A lot of job applications ask if you have like military experience, because there's like all of these, not because they're going to ask you to join their militia, but because there's like job incentives for hiring veterans and things like that. Sometimes there was a question like, what makes you qualified to work here? And it would generate an answer to that question. And then I would see it click through all of these, these menus and click apply. And like I set this up, right after I ordered my food at the cafe. And by the time I had finished eating the food, I had applied to 17 jobs.
That's crazy.
So it was maybe like 45 minutes and it had applied to 17 jobs. There was one moment where I had to pee and I like went to the bathroom for like 1.5 minutes and I came back and I had applied to 2 jobs while I was gone. And I don't even know what jobs they were because I was just like, oh, I wasn't looking at it. So it's pretty wild. Like, it was pretty wild software. And as someone who has applied to jobs in the past, it's like I've spent days on a single job application before, and this did it very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Whether it did it well is something we can talk about, but it generated like a plausible looking job application in a matter of, seconds.
Yeah.
For some of them.
So basically, it's not only finding the job, it's also applying to it. It's like doing the whole end-to-end process of applying for a job, basically finding them and doing the process as well. Obviously, you tried it and it was, successful in the sense that the script worked. Yes, as you say, I guess we'll see if you get any jobs. And I guess
I've been rejected from 10 of them so far, which is devastating. But there's still 7 more that I'm up for. So could be having some personal news soon.
Yeah, if you could let us know as your co-founders, if you do get, like, I don't know, I'd appreciate the heads up,
Exactly.
I think that'd be nice. But many, many more people are using it. Tell us about this Telegram group where it seems these users gather, and how many are in there?
So before I wrote this, there was 4,700 people in it. There's now 5,000 in it. So it's been a few days. There's 5,000 people in it. And it's basically like a Telegram group where people ask, like, how do I set this up if they get stuck? Because it took me, I want to say, like a couple hours to get it to work. But that was primarily because I didn't have Python installed on the device I was using, and there was like some troubleshooting involved there.
Installing Python is the worst thing you have to do when you get a new MacBook, because it no longer ships by default, I seem to remember, and it's a pain in the ass. But
it's a pain in the ass, and then I installed it, and then they're like, oh, actually, we installed an old version, and then it's like, oh, now I installed the new version, and then it's like, well, actually, this one isn't compatible with the new version. You need to go back. Yeah, so it was like a lot of that.
And then you have to make sure the script is using the correct version of Python. Sorry, I'm just really glad that you're feeling these pains,
dude,
as
it's
well
so
now.
crazy because it worked. It worked. I did it one day. I did it the next day. And then on the third day, I tried again. And now it's like Python's not installed. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
and it's like, it's not in the correct directory or something. Like, I have no idea what's going on. It's driving me crazy because I tried to do it again to test something else. And I don't know where it went. But anyways.
These people are in there and they probably have the same sort of issues, because I think kind of the point, at least for some of them, these people aren't going to be software developers necessarily. They just want to apply to a bunch of jobs, right?
They just want to apply to a bunch of jobs. And now there's like a couple startups that are like, we're taking this tool and we're putting in a web interface so that you don't need to install Python. But basically, people are like asking for tech support. But then there's also a like success room where people are talking about how many jobs they've applied to, whether they've gotten any offers or interviews. And like, here's some of the quotes that I pulled from there. Ran it overnight, applied to around 150 jobs, got an HR call this morning, and I'm just getting started. LOL. I'm going to have it run 24/7. I've been using this platform for a little over 3 months now, during which I applied to 2,843 roles. In that time, I've had 4 interviews, received 1 offer for a senior data engineer role at £85,000. Others are like, I've just started and already 20 applications sent in 20 minutes. The bot will be running all night, LOL. So it's like a bunch of people saying this and a bunch of people using this. And, it's the AIification of an entirely new thing. But what I think is very interesting here is that companies and HR software developers and recruiters and stuff like that have been using AI to review job applications for a really long time. And that has been really bad. There's been like a few academic studies about how, AI review is discriminating against people in an all new way. There's all of these people who just like apply for jobs and their applications are never, ever reviewed by a human. Joseph, you wrote about a company where the quote unquote person interviewing someone for a job was an AI. So it's being integrated even further. And as someone who, like, if you are someone who's applying for jobs, I think that can be extremely demoralizing. There's tons of people who have applied for, dozens and dozens and dozens of jobs manually and got no response. And that's really frustrating. So I think that this is a response to that state of affairs. And the other specific thing is, I'm looking for what it's called right now, but there's a specific type of, there's specific language for the type of AI software that reviews resumes. So there's a specific type of AI software called applicant tracking system. And it is this HR automation tool that automatically reviews resumes and cover letters for specific keywords that are in the job description itself. And we are already training humans how to write cover letters so that that type of AI is properly reviewing their resume and cover letter. It's basically SEO, but for your cover letter. And it's make sure that you have these keywords and you'll get past the first automated review process. And what this tool is doing is it is taking ATS, this applicant tracking system lingo, and it is automatically writing a cover letter that applies to the best standards for that. And it's AI, so Lord knows it's probably making some mistakes, but basically you now have an AI large language model writing cover letters with the explicit purpose of having it reviewed by other AI. And I think that is super bleak on one hand. And on the other hand, I'm I don't know, if I was someone who applied to 1,000 jobs manually and didn't get them, maybe I would do this because at that point, who gives a shit?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like this arms race between the companies trying to use AI to streamline it for their own purposes. And then, people quite rightly, I think, being well, fuck you. I'm going to use AI as well, All right, let's leave that there. If you are listening to the free version of the podcast, I will now play us out. But if you are a paying 404 Media subscriber, we're going to talk about how the National Archives in the US are pushing AI onto employees as well. We got chat logs, a presentation. We're going to go into all of those details in the next section. You can subscribe and gain access to that content at 404media.co. As a reminder, 404 Media is journalist-founded and supported by subscribers. If you wish to subscribe to 404 Media and directly support our work, please go to 404media.co. You'll get unlimited access to our articles and an ad-free version of this podcast. You'll also get to listen to the subscribers-only section where we'll talk about a bonus story each week. This podcast is made in partnership with Kaleidoscope. Another way to support us is by leaving a 5-star rating and review for the podcast. That stuff really helps us out. This has been 404 Media. We will see you again next week.